Hello everyone, welcome to this session. In this session, we are going to discuss about components of railway track. So we know that railway track is the way which bear the entire weight of train while the train is traveling or while the train is moving from one place to another place. It means what are the various components of railway track and what are the various features involved in the railway track we are going to see. Okay. So we can know that railway track is the most important one and it contains rails, ballast, sleepers, and various fasteners. Okay, na? So and the railway track should be strong enough, safe enough to bear the entire weight of train while it is moving. It means it should bear the moving load. Understand? So in railway track, rails are made up of steel, ballast is nothing but coarse aggregate, and sleeper is nothing but a concrete slab or concrete one. Understand? No? Made up of concrete. Okay. Na? So in this session, we will discuss about each and every types of each and every types of sleeper, and it means in this session we will discuss about various components of railway track and various classifications of each and every component. Okay, na? Let me start. Okay, come components of railway track. So basically, there are three components in railway track. First one is the ballast, ballast, and second one is the sleepers, and third one is the rails. Okay, now, so the bottom part of the railway track is called as ballast, and above ballast we will lay some concrete one that is called as sleeper. So we know that ballast is a coarse aggregate part which we can found in railway track, and the next one is the sleepers. Sleepers are nothing but a concrete beams or concrete piles which are laid above the ballast. Above the ballast, so they are called as sleepers. And the third one is the rails. Rails are nothing but above the sleepers, some two continuous long steel rails will be there. So they are called as rails. Rails are nothing but, I will write down here. Rails are nothing but two continuous steel or wrought iron beams or components are fitted above sleepers. Understand? Upon which trains can travel or trains can move. Understand? So rails are nothing but two rails are there upon ballast, two with the same distance. There two rails are always positioned and away with same distance. Understand? So they are called as rails. It means we can say that road. You can take road. If vehicle is moving on road, that's why it is called as roadway. And if vehicles move on rails, that's why it is called as railway. Understand? So rail is not nothing but train. Rail is nothing but the track upon track some two steel elements will be there now. They're separated and continuous, they're long and continuous. So those two are called as rails. Upon the two rails, the train will move. Understand? So they are called as rails. So these three are the most important components of a railway track. First one is the ballast, next one is the sleepers, and next one is the rails. Ballast is the core segregated part what we can found at the bottom of the railway track, and sleeper is the concrete pillar, concrete beam which can bear the entire load of the train. It is made up of concrete, precast concrete or concrete, and it is always sleepers are made up with 43 grade or 53 grade. Sleepers are made up with 43 grade cement or 53 grade cement. So when we're using 43 grade for sleeper, so at that time that cement is called as 43 grade, and in case of usage of 53 grade of cement for sleeper, at that time we can say that it has 53s. Understand now? So these two grades of cement to be used in the concrete which is making for produce the, or which is making to make the sleepers. Okay, so these three are the most important and common components of a railway track. About these three components we will discuss deeply now. Okay, let me start with the introduction. Among us the different modes of transport, railways have their greatest utilization in the transport of large volumes of heavy and bulk commodities and passengers over long distances with safety, comfort, and convenience. Understand as though. So compared to the remaining modes of transport, railway is the comfort, safety, and convenient for the long distances. It means if we need to transport or convey goods from one place to another place, railway transport is the best in case of long distances instead of road transport or air transport, because air transport is the mode of transport which convey or which transport goods and passengers from one place to another place with a short time, but it is highly expensive. And road transport, it can take longer time, but compared to railway transport it is somewhat expensive. But compared to remaining two modes of transports, either road transport or rail transport, sorry, road transport or air transport, railway transport is a better one in case of time, in case of distance, and also in case of expensive. So amongst the modes of transport, railways have their greatest utilization in the transport of large volumes of heavy and bulk commodities and passengers over long distances with safety, comfort, and convenience. So coming to history of railways, about history of railways, we have been discussed in previous session. Okay, na? So railways are first introduced in India in the year 1853 from Bombay to Thane. A British engineer, Robert Maitland, Britain was responsible for the expansion of railways from 1857 onwards. So the Allahabad to Jabalpur branch line of the East India Railway had been opened in June 1867, and in the year of 1951, these systems are nationalized as one unit, and Indian Railways became one of the large networks in the world. Understand that? No? So this is the important one. You have to remember that in the year 1951, the Indian Railways have become one of the largest networks in the world. And Indian Railways is the world's ninth largest commercial or utility employer by number of employees, with over 1.4 million employees. Because we can know that every mode of transport, either road transport, land transport, every mode of transport, either road transport, railway transport, air transport, water transport, whatever it may, that transport can develop the nation, can increase the revenue of the nation, can improve the economy of the society, also can provide some employment to the society, also can, it also can create some advancement in the culture, and also create some advancement in the lifestyle of the people, and also can improve the industrialization of the area, and also can improve the, it means, and also can change the lifestyle of the people. Understand? So the transportation can make so many changes to a society, and the transportation can make so many changes to a country. Understand? And due to transportation, we can avail education, we can avail, what to say, health facilities. It means medical facilities in emergencies. Understand? So all the so many benefits are there. Okay, now so And also one more thing, Indian Railways is the world's ninth largest commercial or utility employer by number of employees with over 1.4 million employees. As for rolling stock, IR Indian Railways holds over 39,28 one freight wagons, understand, and 59,713 passenger coaches and 9,549 locomotives. Understand? No? Among these, 43 are steam, 5,197 diesel, and 4,309 are electrical locomotives. Understand? No? So in India, we're having different types of engines like steam engines, diesel engines, and electric engines also there to run trains. Understand? Or no? And okay, as of 31st March 2003, 23,541 kilometers of total 65,000 kilometers route length was certified. Understand? No? Since 1960, almost all electrified sections on Indian Railways uses 25,000 volt AC traction through overhead catenary delivery. So you can see components of permanent railway. Permanent railway is nothing but railway track. This is the another name of railway track. You can see another name of railway track is permanent way. Understood or no? So you can see already we have been discussed that permanent way is nothing but railway track, and typical components are there. It means the major components of a permanent way railway track are rails, sleepers, fasteners, ballast, and subgrade. Okay, now so these are the major components of railway track, and about these things we are going to see. So this is the railway track permanent way you can see here. In this, at the bottom, course grade will be there. Above the course grade, some concrete slabs or concrete beams are there. So they are called as sleepers, and above them, two rails are there. Two steel or raft iron continuous rails are there. Na? So they are called as rails, and upon the rails, train can move. Understand? Na? So that's why it is called as railway route. So here you can understand that it means the sleepers also made up of wood, and sometimes sleepers made up of concrete. Ballast, the coarse aggregate part is called as ballast. And fasteners are utilized for joining rails and sleepers. Understand, Anna? And the wooden part or the concrete part, which are bearing the weight of rails, and also the entire weight of train are called as sleeper, and the sleepers can bear the entire weight, and also the sleepers can transfer the load from rails to the ground. So that is the main role of sleepers in railway track. So and above all the component is there with the same distance, with a particular gauge distance. So the two major and above, it means the topmost components of railway track are called as rails. And rails are in contact with the wheels of a train. Okay, now so these are the components of railway track or permanent way. This is the structure of components you can see here. You can see at the bottom ballast is there, and above ballast bottom it is called as bottom ballast, and you can see sub ballast, bottom ballast, and top ballast are there in this picture. And sleepers are there. Above sleepers, two rails are there, and the two rails, these two rails are fitted to sleeper with the fastens. Understand? So this is the view of the. It means this is the clear cut view of the railway track or permanent way. From this you can understand, and this is the another figure of railway track. You can see in this figure also you can see embankment. It means above the ballast, sleepers will be there. Above the sleepers, rails will be there, and the rails and sleepers will be fitted with fasteners. And the ground surface just below the ballast is called as embankment. You can see embankment, ballast, sleepers, and rails. And the distance between the two rails is gauge or gauge distance. Okay, now so here you can see that. See the between two rails is gauge distance. Okay, now you can remember this point. So now we discuss about rails. Rails is similar to steel girders. Okay, now. So these are placed end to end to provide continuous and level surface for the trains to move. So this is about rails. You can see rail is the similar to steel girders. These are placed end to end to provide continuous and level surface for the trains to move. And the next one is the functions of rail. You can see to provide continuous and level surface for movement of train. This is the function of rail. And see to provide a smooth pathway so that friction between rail and wheel become less. And between rail and wheel, it means the friction become between rail and wheel will become less. The rail serves as a lateral guide for the running of wheels. The rail transferring the load into the sleeper. The rail is used to bear the stresses developed in the track due to temperature changes and loading patterns. And also the rails use it to assist braking forces caused due to stoppage of trains. So these are all the various functions and advantages of rails. So next one is the requirements of an ideal rail. This is the most important one. You have to remember that, and this is the important question. What are the requirements of the ideal rail? You can see the section of the rail should be such that the load of the wheels is transferred to sleepers without exceeding the permissible stresses. Understand now? So the rail should be designed and the material for the rail should be selected, should be suitable to bear the load. It means to bear the calculated load and to bear the bearing capacity of the land and also to bear the behavior and functioning of the ballast. Understand that? So the section of the rail should be such that the load of the wheel is transferred to the sleepers without exceeding the permissible stresses. And the section of the rail should be able to withstand the lateral forces caused due to fast moving trains. The underside of the head and the top of the foot of the rail section should be of such a slope that fish plates fits snugly. And the center of gravity of the rail section should preferably coincide the center of the height of the rail so that maximum tensile and compressive stresses are nearly equal. And the web of the rail section should be such that it can safely bear the vertical load without buckling. The head of the rail should be sufficiently thick for adequate margin of vertical wear. The foot of the rail should provide sufficient bearing area on the underlying sleepers so that the compressive stresses on the timber sleeper remain within permissible limits. The section of the rails should be such that the ends of the two adjacent rails can be efficiently joined with a pair of fish plates. So this is the one of the important characteristics of ideal rail. You remember that the section of the rails should be such that the ends of two adjacent rails can be efficiently joined with a pair of fish plates. The surfaces for rail, table and gauge face should be sufficiently hard to resist the wear. Okay, now. So the contact area between the rail and wheel flange should be as large as possible to reduce the contact stresses. Okay, now we discuss about the types of rail sections. You can see there are three types of rail sections are there. First one is double-headed rails, bull-headed rails, and flat-footed rails. We will see. So these are the three types of rail sections. First one is the head foot. It means first one is the double-headed rail. Second one is the bull-headed rail, and the third one is the flat-footed rail. From this figure, you can understand that. So the top flange of rail is called as head, and the bottom one is called as foot, and the middle one is called as stem. And based upon the shapes of foot and head, the rails have been classified into three types. First one is the double-headed rail, bull-headed rail, and flat-footed rail. You can see here the dimensions of various rail sections. You can see In double-headed rail, the foot contains a width of 70 mm, and the stem width will be 19 mm, and the head width will be 70 mm, and their heights also given here. 44.5 is the height of the head, and 44.5 is the height of the foot, and 63.5 mm is the height of the stem in case of double-headed rail. And also you can see here, in case of bull-headed rail, the width of head is 68.7 and the width of foot is 65.5 mm, and the width of stem is 16.3 mm. And coming to heights of the bull-headed rail, the height of the head is 46 mm, and the height of the foot is 33 mm, and the height of the stem is 65.5 mm. And coming to dimensions of flat-footed rail, based upon their sizes and shapes only, the rails have been classified into three types. Okay, so coming to flat-footed rail, the width of head is 66.7 mm, and the width of foot is 136.5 mm, and the width of stem is 13.9 mm. And coming to their heights, height of head is 43.7 mm. From this figure, you can understand, and the height of stem is 78.6 mm, and the height of foot is 20.6 mm. Okay, now, so these are the various types of rail sections. These are classified based upon their shapes and sizes, and each and every type of rail is used for different purposes, and they are having different characteristics. You can see double-headed rails. The double-headed rails were the rails which were used in the beginning. It means which were double-headed and consisting of dumbbell section. Okay, now so the section or the shape of the double-headed rail is in the shape of dumbbell. And coming, the idea behind using these rails was that when the head was worn, it means when the head was worn out in course of time, the rail can be inverted and reused. So in that case, we can use okay. So and but as time passed, indentations were formed in the lower table, due to which smooth running over this surface at the top was impossible. And the next one is the bull-headed rail. So these are the this is the second type of rail. In this type of rail, the head was made with a little thicker and stronger than the lower part by adding more metal to it so that it can withstand the stresses. So in this figure, you can see the bull-headed rail. Okay, now, so from this figure, you can understand that the thickness, it means the thickness of the head is somewhat higher than the thickness of uh, foot. But in case of double-headed rail, the thickness of both head and foot are the same. But here, thickness of head is high and the thickness of foot is somewhat low compared to the thickness of head. So such rails are called as bull-headed rails. You can see next one is the flat-footed rails. So these rails are also called as Vignol's rails. Initially, the flat-footed rails were fixed to the sleepers directly and no chase and keys were required. Initially it was. And later on, due to heavy trains, because later on due to heavy loads of trains, so many problems were raised. So after that, its shape has been converted like this. It means here the thickness of the head is somewhat higher than the thickness of the foot, but the width of the foot is somewhat larger than the width of the head. So that's why these are called as flat-footed rails. Later on, due to heavy train loads, some problems have been raised, so which lead to steel bearing plates between sleeper and the rail. So at rail joints and other important places, these are the rails which are most commonly used in India. Understand? No? So you can remember that the flat-footed rails are the rails which are most commonly used in India. You can remember this. Okay. In this session, we have discussed about what is railway track, what are the components of railway track, and what is permanent way. Okay, now so and it means the permanent way is nothing but railway track. This is the another name given to railway track. And basically, we have been discussed that railway track or permanent way contains three major components: rails, sleepers, and ballast. Okay, now. So in this session, we have been discussed about rails and the different types of rails and the various requirements of ideal rails. We have been discussed. Okay, now. See, so these are the various components of ballast, sleepers, and rails. In this session, we have been discussed about rails, and in next session, we will discuss about sleepers and ballast. So in this session, we have discussed about rails. In next session, we will discuss about sleepers and ballast. Thank you.